Hey, what is up guys? MKBHD here, and this is DJI Spark, a brand new $500 drone. And this is DJI Inspire 1, Black Edition, an entirely ridiculous, awesome $3,000 drone. So of course there are some other drones we could have used for this comparison. You know, Inspire 2 is out, that's a couple $1,000s, and there's some other cheaper drones as well. But at the end of the day, they would have all lined up to make the same point. The spectrum of drones you can buy varies hugely. You can buy one under 500 bucks, a couple $100, or you can go with a $5,000, $6,000, even $10,000 drone. But over the years, on average, drones have gone from being these much bigger, much more expensive things to getting much smaller, much cheaper, and much more accessible, to the point where cheap drones are getting good, and good drones are getting cheap. So what do you get out of the nearly one order of magnitude difference in price? Well, first there's the smaller things like the controls. So the Spark can be controlled through the DJI app on a smartphone, an iPhone in this case, and the Inspire is controlled through a DJI app on an iPad that's connected to a larger joystick controller. But a lot of the controls are the same exact movements because obviously you have the same axes to control. You control left, right, up, down, rotation, all those things are the same. So they end up being very similar controls in the hand, whether you're on a joystick or on a smartphone or an iPad. And then the battery life between them is also surprisingly similar. Usually drones are not very lengthy with their flight times because they have to stay lightweight and batteries are heavy. But the Inspire 1 has an average flight time of about 18 minutes, give or take a little bit, while the Spark, this tiny thing, is good for about 15 minutes, give or take a little bit. So very impressive. So the most important differences between these drones is very clearly set in three main things: the physical size, the camera quality, and the flying features. These are the things that matter most to people buying drones, and it kind of sets them apart into two different categories of drone. One being the Inspire 1 as more of a film tool, and the other being the Spark as more of a fun tool. Obviously, if you value being able to take the drone anywhere, the physical size is super important, and that advantage goes obviously to the Spark. The thing is tiny. You probably watched Casey's video by now, but if you haven't, I'll link it below. I think we can all agree that we thought the DJI Mavic was small, like incredibly small, and that was one of its distinguishing features, but the Spark makes the Mavic look huge. It's literally the size of a smartphone, or even smaller actually in footprint. So if you have a smartphone in your pocket, like imagine this with propellers on it. That's the actual size of this drone. Now obviously if you're gonna value things like stability in higher winds, or flight performance like being able to go 50, 60 miles an hour to chase cars and fast moving subjects, well then you have to go with the bigger drone. Bigger propellers, bigger thrust, better stability, faster performance. Obviously, that goes to the Inspire 1. But nothing quite beats a drone that you can literally just fit in your jacket pocket and take anywhere. Definitely film tool versus fun tool. So for advanced flying features, the film tool, the Inspire 1, is definitely much more about manual control. Now it does have some interesting abilities with repeatable operations and repeatable flights, which is something you'd want to do with a film tool. But for the most part, you're getting manual flights, and a lot of times you have more than one person on the controls. So one person to operate the camera controls and a separate person flying the drone itself. So they can fly where they want and then look where they want with the camera. And you can do things like repeatable flights and obstacle avoidance, but they're actually not quite as advanced as the smaller, more consumer level drones. And this is because a lot of the most interesting, least expensive consumer-oriented drones are built around single operator use. So just having fun, getting cool shots of yourself by yourself. So there's follow modes, portrait modes, gesture controls, obstacle avoidance, etc. And Spark covers all these things. So that is, again, film tool versus fun tool. And then the cameras and cameras quality. This is actually probably the biggest difference. So the Spark has a built-in 12 megapixel camera that can take 1080p video at 30 frames per second. We spent some time testing this thanks to Casey bringing over a pretty sweet video subject. Now this is technically a prototype, but you can get a pretty good idea of the video quality you're getting out of this little guy. I kind of wish it could shoot 4K video, obviously. A 12 megapixel smartphone size sensor should be capable of that, but the computer inside might not be, so we're stuck with 1080p here. But then of course we moved to testing the actual film tool, the Inspire 1. And then we had to bump up to a slightly faster subject too. So the Inspire 1 is just an incredible machine. It's carrying the Zenmuse X5 camera in this case, which shoots 4K video at 30 frames per second. But obviously, as a film tool, you can switch out cameras and lenses on this camera whenever you want. It's much more modular. This one has a tighter lens, and it also has 3 axes of camera control to pinpoint it anywhere, even through the propellers up if you want, or at any angle in a random direction, while the drone flies in a different direction. There's a lot more capability here, while the Spark has 2 axes, so there's no left to right rotation without actually rotating the entire drone. But both do have really good gimbals for stability. So the Inspire 1 was kind of next level as far as smoothness goes, but they can both obviously do really smooth video, especially if you're a skilled drone pilot. So at the end of the day, if you're wondering why someone might spend thousands of dollars on a drone instead of hundreds, well, when it's something like the Inspire 1, it's because it's much more of a film tool. There are people who have literally used the camera and gimbal from this drone as a handheld Steadicam just because it's that good quality and it's that smooth. So that's the type of thing you're looking at. Plus you get very stable flight, really high performance, and super good stability even in heavy winds. But something like the Spark, which is much more of a fun tool as I've called it, is definitely going to give you a lot more fun features for single person operation, to lift it off from your hand, control it via gestures, take selfies, take automated flight paths that you would ordinarily not really be able to do very well by yourself. All these things are just the fun of having a drone in your pocket, and I really do think it's going to sell pretty well. The thing is super cheap compared to previous drones that have the same capabilities. So that's been it. Thank you to DJI for offering a first look at the prototype of the new Spark. Thanks to Casey for hanging around with a sweet video subject and for being an awesome drone pilot. And hopefully you guys learned something about flying machines today. Thank you for watching. Talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.